If you sell beats online, you know about the PayPal chargebacks. They're the worst because someone will buy a beat from you, decide, yeah, I don't want to pay for this. They file a fraud claim against your account. So then PayPal punishes you by refunding their money and then giving you a chargeback fee. So it's a real
of $25, right?
Isn't it it's a really messed up thing to do. I'm probably switching back to evil ass AT&T. What's going down, everybody? It's the Music Entrepreneur Club podcast. My name is DJ Payne One. I'm joined with Dame Ritter, and we're live twice a week on Mondays and Thursdays at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for our free music business mentorship program. Anyone can join. Anyone can log in. You don't have to sign up. You just visit beatstars.live and there you are. How are you feeling, Dame?
I'm feeling good, man. There's a lot of good things happening. I know that 1 week notice, I've been probably talking about that for a couple months now, if not longer. We got a majority of the songs pretty much done. Documentaries coming together. So we should start releasing things next month. So I'm excited about that. And then I'm still working on this live monthly comedy show that we're going to be starting in LA, but it's also a live, there'll be a live stream, a ticketed live stream associated with that. And then we're launching a Patreon. We're launching Big Josh Patreon tomorrow. So I'm excited just to see the reaction to a lot of the projects that we're working on. So busy, but everything is solid.
And this is, I forgot to mention, this is episode 113, and I completely dropped the ball on last episode being 112, given that you're an R&B fan.
Yeah, I like 112. They're not one of my favorite groups, but they definitely have a lot of songs that are quality.
More than people think. Cupid, Peaches and Cream.
They got a lot. I mean, they don't have that many albums, but they had some good songs. So yeah, 112 is dope.
Yeah, and then I messed up with my MEC tribute to them. So I guess we got to wait until what's another episode that until episode 411, then we can shout out another R&B group. No, there's got to be another one that's a series of 3 numbers, right?
I have no idea. I can't think of one right now.
I can only think of 411, but you're more of an R&B fan than I am. Okay, so
I don't even know who that is. 411.
You don't?
That's an R&B group. 411.
Yeah.
Oh well, I missed. I
think they were British, but
I have no idea who they are. But shout out.
They had some songs. It was a female, all female group. So maybe you had a bias since you like Boys to Men the most. What was I going to say? PayPal. Now, my video about PayPal, it became my highest viewed TikTok video. And I kind of had one of those moments when I just uploaded. I didn't know how I was going to do. TikTok is something I still don't really have a rhythm going for myself on. And I saw that it hit like 15,000 views within the first couple hours. So I was thinking, okay, this is probably going to do pretty well. And it did. And there were a lot of comments, and the title was "How to Stop People from Stealing Your Beats," referring to what happens on PayPal with the chargebacks. And if you sell beats online, you know about the PayPal chargebacks. They're the worst because someone will buy a beat from you, decide, yeah, I don't want to pay for this, even though I just paid for it, got a contract, everything. And then they, instead of just reaching out to you and saying, hey, I don't want to buy this, I don't want this beat anymore, give me a refund, they file a fraud claim against your account. So then PayPal punishes you by refunding their money and then giving you a chargeback fee. So it's a real
of $25, right?
It's a really messed up thing to do. It's like going to a store and instead of returning an item, punching the clerk in the face, snatching the money out of the register, and then throwing a brick through the window. It's like, just get the money and leave. But anyway, there's a way to combat that, and wasn't using it for a long time. I know BeatStars was saying, yeah, this is the way to do it. I'm like, no, that takes way too much effort. I don't want to do that. And then I started doing it because the chargebacks were coming on really substantial amounts of money, like $100 plus. I'm like, nah, I'm not going to lose $100 plus just because someone wants to act like an asshole. So I used their method, which was to print out something physical and then send it to the person that got the beat, and then use that tracking number that the post office gave me as proof of shipment. And PayPal doesn't really like digital products. They don't really protect digital products very well at all. They kind of don't give a fuck. So with physical, it's different. If you provide the tracking number, they say, oh, okay, you actually did send it, so this person is clearly lying. But without that, it's really hard to win those cases. It's kind of like a 50-50 shot. I don't want to take a 50-50 shot. Granted, I have to drive to the post office and spend, but it's like a mile away, and spend like between $4 and $5 on this. This for domestic. Even for international, it's worth it, but it's a higher overhead. And so I've been winning all my cases using this method. So I decided to just make a really brief video explaining how to do that. I was getting some really weird comments, as expected, because it's me, but I was getting some really strange comments from people. And finally I realized, oh, okay, I see what it is. There were people leaving all these negative comments like, beats are trash anyway, or why would you pay for overpriced beats? And then I realized these poor dullards think I'm talking about Beats by Dre headphones, and somehow I'm making an entire video with information that doesn't add up to Beats by Dre headphones about how to not stop people from stealing your headphones. That's another story about how the human mind fails many on social media. But more relevant comments I found strange, and there is a big movement to, which I understand, to discourage people from using PayPal. So I got that comment a lot. It's not a helpful comment because I'm making a video for people who use PayPal. If you're frustrated and you're using PayPal because that is the most widely used payment processing service on the internet, of course you're going to be. I'm frustrated too, but you would rather have a solution than someone telling you, "Hey, don't use PayPal," because that wouldn't make any sense to just suddenly cut your income by a huge fraction. So hopefully the people who aren't quite yet selling a ton of beats aren't listening and internalizing this whole "don't use PayPal" thing, or thinking, well, oh my God, someone can abuse the PayPal system. I don't even want to sell beats online. I saw a couple comments like that, like, is it even worth it? So yeah, it's worth it. That's why I'm giving you this solution. I don't know what it is about presenting a solution that discourages people, but no, it's a pretty easy solution. My last two chargebacks were for $66 and $100. So I spent $8 total to make $166, and it's not a big deal. So there's a small problem. Here's a solution.
Plus avoiding the $50 chargeback fees, right?
Plus avoiding the charge. Yeah, exactly. So I actually saved a lot more than that.
Those chargebacks suck because there's nothing you can do, and I'm sure, like, it doesn't seem like, you know, PayPal makes a shitload. I'm sure PayPal makes a shitload of money from chargebacks, like $25 for every chargeback. And I'm sure there's thousands of them a day.
People are out here scamming.
So there's no incentive for PayPal to be more on the beat sellers side or digital, you know, because there's got to be a better solution to this. Obviously, if you sold something digitally, there's proof of, you know, the item being sent, whether it's email or what have you, like, you know, but, you know, there's no incentive for PayPal to dive deeper into this because they're getting $25 a chargeback. That shit is crazy.
Yeah, and I feel like, don't quote me on this, but I feel like that number fluctuates sometimes. But yeah, I mean, just to address all the comments of people saying, well, here's a better solution, don't use PayPal. Not really a solution, but if you want to listen to those people, great. I have no problem with it because it just means more money for me. PayPal and Stripe are still the most, as far as I know, the most widely used payment methods online. So I will never tell a producer not to use PayPal. The same way I'm not ever going to tell a producer not to use YouTube just because the algorithm's getting rough. You know what I mean? There are a lot of people out there who just want to be right and not helpful. And it's everyone's choice whether to leave these comments or listen to them. But intuitively, why would you decide to take fewer payment methods? I mean, if an alternative to PayPal comes along, especially one that processes Bitcoin and other forms of cryptocurrency, and it integrates easily into online beat selling platforms, great. I will use it immediately. I will sign up a day before it becomes available, but I'm still not going to stop using PayPal just because of that. I want to accept as many forms of payment as possible because guess what? I want to make the beat buying experience easy for the customer. I don't want to make them jump through hoops. And I've personally never had anyone contact me and say, you know, I can't use any of these methods. I have to use crypto. That's just not something that's happening. I know a lot of people who are in love with crypto are in love with the concept of it and not necessarily the practicality of it right now, because it's just not widespread yet. And so, you know, they really are cheerleading for it. And I understand the average consumer isn't there yet. So you don't want to cut off half of your body just because eventually this is going to happen. Just jump on it when it happens. And you'd think that would be common sense, right? Like, don't you think people would wonder, what if the gas station down the street stopped accepting cash or MasterCards because they wanted everyone to use Zelle? I mean, some people might stick around. Some people might have Zelle, but some people's banks don't allow Zelle. Some people don't want to go through that extra trouble and they'll just go to the other gas station. So I don't know what to say other than that. And if you use PayPal and you're selling beats online, and you probably do, you may end up dealing with chargebacks and printing out a receipt with a download link to the beats, mailing them to the customer with a tracking number, and using that tracking number as proof of shipping in a PayPal resolution center dispute will help you not lose money. Beyond that, I don't see this conversation as an argument.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely want to give your customers as many options to make checkout as easy as possible. You know, people have different payment methods, prefer different payment methods. That's pretty straightforward. You know, I think a larger point is, you know, there are just giants in certain aspects of our industry, right? Like in social media, we can get mad at Facebook, we can get mad at YouTube, we can get mad at Instagram. You know, we have the option to get off these platforms. You know, we can get off the platforms and start a Patreon page or something like that. But, you know, until you're willing to make a decision like that, you kind of have to play by the rules. And I know in this environment, you know, everybody's like, I want to do what I want to do. And it's very like, you know, fuck the system. I'm going to do, you know, anything I want to do types. But you can't unless you want to jump off these platforms. We have to play by the rules. You know, there's another client that I have, and she just got her YouTube demonetized. You know, we're trying to figure out how to get it back, but it's like, we got to play by the rules if you want to, you know, be on these platforms and make money on these platforms. It's just the way it is. And so we can cry and complain as much as we want. But our other option is to jump off the platform or create your own platform. You do have those options, but until then, you know, I would, you know, play by the rules. And PayPal is a payment giant. So yeah, if you want to use them, you got to play by the rules. That's just the way it is.
And there are a lot of, I mean, I'm just, this is business me talking. This is not morality me talking. There are a lot of problems with PayPal. There are a lot of problems with all these platforms. So yeah, we do have a choice, and I think I would agree more if someone was saying get off PayPal because of this policy or because of this moral reason, rather than just, don't use PayPal. Why are you complaining? Don't use PayPal. It's like, the thing is, you can't win on the internet. People want solutions. You give them solutions, and then they're like, well, we don't like this solution. Okay, don't use it. Dame, what did you want to talk about? I know you wanted to follow up on, since we're talking about cryptocurrency, Tory Lanez NFT.
Yeah, just real quickly, the Tory Lanez NFT. I don't know exactly how that went down. I don't know if he really made $1 million. My interest in the story is I know that NFTs are a real thing and can become a new revenue source for artists. So if the story attracts more artists to it and gets more artists to try to figure out like what's going on, like that's more important to me than finding out if Tory Lanez really made $1 million. Like, what if it was 40,000 and what if it was 100,000? Like, I don't care. Like, I know that NFTs are going to play an important part in the music industry going forward. Not as important as some people think they're going to play, in my opinion. But I know that they're going to be yet another revenue source. So I want more artists to start learning and educating themselves. That's why I'm interested in the Tory Lanez story. I'm not interested in the details. I'm not interested in any type of drama. So I'm glad that the story got that much shine. So that hopefully it attracts more people to learn about it. So for the people that are responding saying, well, Tory Lanez really didn't make $1 million, or like, I don't care. I really don't care about Tory Lanez. I want more people to learn about this potential new revenue opportunity for artists, because it might be something that, a lot of independent artists can take advantage of. So that's why I want to leave that. There was some news that United Masters has partnered with Beat Bread and Paper Chain. So basically what these two companies do, so Beat Bread gives advances to artists. So it's kind of I'm not sure how it integrates into United Masters, but I'm assuming, obviously United Masters is a distribution company. They know how much money you're making. They probably make some type of calculation based off the money that you've been making to provide you an advance. So that's part of the United Masters system. So you could potentially get an advance if you are generating income. You're probably not going to get an advance if your music hasn't been generating any revenue. The other piece of it, Paper Chain. So Paper Chain is similar. It's like more shorter term advances because, we've had Paper Chain on the MEC. We've had the founder of Paper Chain on the MEC maybe a couple times, but definitely last year he was on. And basically what Paper Chain does, it gives you like a shorter term advance. It basically pays you now for your streams that you're getting today, right? So they're running these algorithms, they're running these algorithms to calculate, based on the streams that you're getting today, how much you're going to get paid in the 2 to 3 months time it takes for you to actually get paid from your streams that are happening today. So you could use their service. I think it's like a 1%, 2% fee to get paid out today, what you're going to receive in a couple months. So that is something that I think, the United Masters has a partnership. Any response to that, Payne? You think it's cool? Something people could take advantage of?
I mean, it sounds like a label advance. So I think, if nothing else, I'm sure there's good and bad. But if nothing else, we can at very least experience what an advance involves, because I feel like an advance is still a really misunderstood concept in the music business by most people. Even by people who accept a big label deal and get that advance, they still probably don't fully understand what it means and what recoupment means. And I'm all for that conversation. I've been trying to have that recoupment conversation with regards to producers getting royalties for beats, and that's one of those conversations I get a lot of resistance on from recording artists. So here we go again. This is something specifically for probably recording artists more than anyone. I mean, yeah, producers who are releasing solo music and can take advantage of instrumental music, and solo projects can take advantage of this, but just pushing that conversation about recoupment, because you can be sure that all of that is wrapped up in one of these agreements before you take an advance from this company. I'm for that conversation.
Yeah, you definitely want to look at the terms of the. I haven't looked at the terms of what's required, how things get recouped. So you definitely want to look at the terms before you do something like this. But I think it's good to have another option for artists to fund their careers. Now, on the flip side, for the people that do get an advance, it would be nice to have some more resources helping artists decide what to do with that money, right? Because a lot of artists think they need money, and if they got the money today, they wouldn't know what the hell to do with it, or they would spend it in the most ridiculous fashion ever, and they wouldn't get a return on that investment, and it wouldn't push their career forward. So now that now that we do have access to money, who's going to help these artists and producers figure out how to best invest it to advance their career? I don't know what service that is, but I think that's part of what we do. Not directly, but definitely tapping into the MEC sessions. Hopefully you learn more about where the priority should be in terms of investing in your career. When you have money. So that could be another. I don't know if that's a service or if that's just something that you need to educate yourself on. But tap into our sessions, and I'm sure you'll get some tidbits here and there that can help you with that. If and when you come into some bread.
I think if nothing else, at very least, use that money. If you're one of these artists that's generating enough on the streaming and everything, where one of these smaller companies will offer you an advance for those royalties. If nothing else, spend that money on just your bare necessities, and focus on making the music during that period. And if nothing else, at least you'll come out of that period with a larger catalog and possibly a better body of work, rather than just saying, okay, all right, promo, playlists, pay the DJ, this and that, because you're going to walk out, and however many thousands of dollars that advance actually was, is going to be gone. If you're, everything, I have yet to see, and I hate to say it, I have yet to see a person or a company on the internet offering a marketing or music promo service that's worth anything at that level. I'm talking about like the $100 to $2,000, even up to like the $10,000 level. It's a lot of fake playlists. It's a lot of, I'm going to play your record on this internet radio station that, very few people listen to, or I'm going to repost you from this SoundCloud account that has, 200,000 fake followers. We're going to spend some of the money you sent me on the fake plays, so you feel satisfied because it looks like your numbers are up, but you're going to walk away from this whole experience with no more fans than you had before. You're going to play a show, and the same amount of people walking through the door before you bought our service, it's going to be the same amount of people walking through the door after. And that's what I hate to see. So I just think, God, if you're going to spend that money on anything, spend it on just living and focus on making the music until you really figure out what kinds of marketing opportunities are legitimate and are going to be useful to your goals. But a lot of that is going to take that conversation, and maybe at that point you're not even ready to request any kind of advance. I don't know.
Yeah, every artist, it's hard to give like general advice to what you should do with money, because I think every artist is in a different situation. However, if you can get an advance from a company like Beat Bread, the assumption is you are making money from Spotify now. So you have money coming in. So my general advice to somebody in that position would use to take that money and create a lot more music to be consistent so you can get, a lot more streams and your catalog builds, and it's going to keep the money coming in. But yeah, I think, giving general advice to what an artist should do with money. I know people do it. I know people do give general advice. And a lot of times I just think it's bad because there's so many different types of artists that are tapping in to our sessions or listening to this podcast. And there are different situations. Like some have the ability to do graphic design themselves, so they don't ever need to expend on graphic design because they have that ability, or they can, use something like Canva and make it work. So yeah, I think that needs some personalization. That needs to be like an individual if you come into money. But I will tell you this, just in general, like your issue, if you think your issue is just money, you're probably wrong. Right? We've talked about this a lot. Like there's so much you can do without money. And there's ways to start generating money without money, right? Like there's a lot of platforms that pay for your consistent content, and a lot of that content doesn't social media doesn't cost money to make. It doesn't cost money for us to make our videos, right? Like we have. I mean, as long as you have a phone. If you don't have a phone, you're probably not hearing this conversation right now. But yeah, so shout out to United Masters for being the first to incorporate that into their platform. I was assuming that was going to happen, a couple of years ago, and it's happened. So, for the people that can take advantage of it, awesome. Cool. The other thing that I wanted to talk about, I know that when people hear this podcast, it's a lot of doom and gloom because it is very difficult to be successful in the music industry, whether you're an artist, producer, whatever. And I think that the number is, I think there's like 8 million artists on Spotify, something like that. I know that there's like 1.2 million that have there's like 1.2 million that have 1,000 monthly listeners or more. So that's a shitload of artists. That's a lot of competition. On the flip side, I don't know what the actual number is. Maybe this, I don't know what your estimate would be, Payne, but out of 8 million artists, how many of those are, like, what percentage of those artists are pursuing it seriously and like the right way? And what I mean by that are, there's probably a ton of ingredients to go into pursuing the music the right way, but it's consistently releasing content, focusing on their brand and their story, learning the business, developing, solid relationships, like really giving themselves a legit crack at being successful in the music industry, doing all the things that you're supposed to be doing. What percentage of those 8 millions would be your guess? Obviously, we don't know for sure, but just based off of your interactions with artists or your relationships with artists, what percentage of 8 million do you think would fit that category?
Probably 10 to 20. But having said that, you can go from doing it the wrong way to doing it the right way with time. And I don't think anyone just starts off doing it the right way. I certainly didn't. Some people do. I think they're a very rare minority, but I see so many people just doing the same thing over and over again. And we have so many within the English language, just so many maxims about repeating the same mistakes or doing the same thing and expecting different results that it kind of boggles my mind that people would even walk down this path. But some people figure it out, and I hope more people start figuring it out. I think you need to fall, you need to make mistakes, you need to walk into dead ends to figure out what the right steps are. Just make sure you're receptive to those lessons, because if you're continuing to walk into dead ends, then you may end up doing that indefinitely. I've known people who have done that for years, and at the end of the year, they're like, well, the industry just didn't want to see me shine. And it's like, you sabotaged yourself consistently because you'd put out one song a year or because you would turn down shows, or you would walk off stages, or you would refuse to tour, or you would not pay people for engineering, and you'd never get your songs mixed because the engineer said, I'm not giving them to you until you pay for the fee that we agreed on. And it's just, there are a million different ways that a person can sabotage themselves, and I've seen it all, and it doesn't help.
Well, your number is way higher than what my guess would be. Like, just based off my interaction with artists, I would put it at less than 5%. So like, if you're really serious in doing the right things and you have some good music, you're probably truly competing with like 5% of that 8 million. And that's still a shitload of people. But I think it's at least a much better shot, and it's not, music is not competitive in the sense that if somebody makes it, you can't make it. Like, it's not like that, but there is competition, right? Like, you're competing for attention. There's only a certain amount of hours of attention in a day that people are willing to give anything, right? Willing to give the internet, willing to give TV shows, willing to give time out on the town. Like, you're competing with for people's attention. So, hopefully when you look at it that way, if you are doing, and I like that point, Payne, of like, some people aren't doing it the right way, but eventually will learn how to, pursue music in a way that's gives themselves a better chance. But my opinion is, in terms of the artists that I've come across, like, it's less than 5%. There's a lot of artists out there, but there's a lot of excuses being made. There's a lot of people just kind of throwing in the towel because it's draining. It's tough. What's required today is a lot of content, a lot of engagement, a lot of interaction. And like we talk about all the time, like that's draining, and it's tough to do. And not a lot of people are ready for what it really requires.
Yeah, and that speaks to this whole saturation narrative that we've been seeing over and over again. And I definitely see it with beat making and the music production, where people say, well, you can't sell beats online anymore. It's too saturated. It's way too saturated. But as you said, there are hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of people trying to sell beats online right now. But as you said, a very small percentage of them are doing it right. Yeah, everyone's trying to sell beats online, and it seems like it's saturated, and that discourages me from jumping into it because I got to compete with all these people. But realistically, how many of these people have great beats, great audio quality, are consistently uploading beats every single day, are consistently getting back to their customers, have good branding, are active on social media, are posting other content, are aware of the music business so that they're able to protect themselves and maximize on their sales, and also educate the artists that license their beats? How many of them are community minded and they're collaborating? There are just all these different factors, and suddenly you realize, okay, maybe it's not that saturated. Maybe everyone's trying to make beats, but not everybody's trying to run a successful business in the space that I'm in. And that's a comforting thought. And I try to tell people that all the time. Everybody raps. Yeah, you could play a show with 100 other rappers, and not every single person on that stage is going to put on a good show. And the crowd will know that. The crowd will recognize that. It's the same with anything. Everything's saturated. You just have to do it better. You just have to be better at whatever it is that you're trying to brand. And I think that brings up another problem, because you think, well, God, if you're confronted with that reality that there are a lot of people doing exactly what you do, so how can you do it better? And that intimidates you. We're like, I don't want, because I swear to you, and tell me if I'm wrong, Dan, I swear to you, I've had this conversation so many times with artists that I've worked with, and I just tell them, like, you got to stand out. You got to do, I know you feel like you're drowning in a sea of competition. How are you standing out? And they just don't have any ideas. And I think that's the real issue. they don't even necessarily want to think about how to be different. A lot of them are just like, well, can I just be successful and famous doing what I'm doing right now, even though it hasn't been working for the last couple of years? Like, no, you got to change. I don't know what to tell you at that point. Have you experienced that?
Yeah. I mean, typically where artists lack is, let me take a step back. I know that a lot of people pursue music because it seems fun and it seems like, it obviously I'd rather be rocking a show than learning how to be a plumber. Of course. So with that, there's going to be a lot of competition for, for this profession. Um, so so yeah, you're gonna have to differentiate yourself. You're gonna have to get creative in order to stand out. That is the challenge of today's artists, right? Like, how do you stand out through the clutter? How do you cut through the noise? And you have to be creative both in your art and with your marketing tactics in order to do that. Um, so we've never said this was easy, but I think that if you have a great foundation and like I said, pursue it the right. And when I say the right way, it's not like there's one way, but there's generally things that you should be doing. Right? You should be getting better at your craft. You should be learning the business. You should be networking, and you should be creating consistently, and you should be coming up with what your brand and messaging is that's unique and compelling and that people are going to relate to. There's probably some things that I missed, but those are core. Right now, how you go about doing these things can be different. The way I network might be different from somebody else's. My marketing ideas might be different from somebody else's, but I think those are some of the core things that you have to do in order to be successful. But again, that's not one way. You could do these things in different ways, but those pockets, must be checked by you or somebody on your team. So that's all I'll say about it.
Yeah, it's such difficult advice to give somebody. Do something better, do something differently. It takes so much experience and it takes so much vision. But so I want to be careful right now because I feel like I'm on the borderline of restarting that conversation about whether or not artists are crazy, the whole Russ conversation. I don't even want to go there, but yeah, I mean, it feels like you have to be weird and just like if you're at a party and everybody's dressed the same, you might have to just take your clothes off to stand out. You know what I mean? Metaphorically, don't do that. I mean, you do whatever you want if you're an adult, but that would feel like if we're looking at the metaphor of being in a party and suddenly just tearing your clothes off, everyone's going to look at you, but it's going to be scary and you might get kicked out. Half of the people might respect you, the other half might not, and out of the half that do respect you, only 10% are going to be brave enough to walk out of that party with you. But I feel like that's a good metaphor for music, where the second someone takes one of those crazy risks, they're going to polarize the audience. A lot of people are going to hate them, and that's fine. A lot of people are going to love them, and that's what matters. But that initial moment of standing out and really going against what's out there, even in a small way, you could go to a party that's a formal party and everyone's wearing, regular suits and ties, and you come in with like a metallic silver blazer or something. You know what I mean? You don't have to get naked and do anything crazy, but you're standing out by doing that. And you see a lot of artists that aren't that different, but they're good and they're different enough from what else is out there, and they stand out because people will choose their music over somebody else's just because of that little amount of differentiation. So I can't from a podcast tell you how to be different. I can't tell you how to make different beats. I can't tell you how to write different music in this format, but it's something to think about.
You don't necessarily have to do any of that crazy stuff. I mean, if that's in you and that's in the story that you're trying to tell, then sure. But nothing's funnier than people doing goofy ass shit and not getting the
No, I'm not
response.
saying that was a metaphor. I'm not saying actually, be naked
No,
on stage.
but I see artists. I've seen artists over the years not get the response that they wanted, and instead of, their solution is to do like goofier and goofier stuff, and it's still not getting the response that they want. And I think that's hilarious. Like when I know an artist and I see like them trying some like real, in my opinion, stupid and goofy stuff, and then it's not getting like that. That's fun. Like that's not what it is. Like I look at an artist like a Code of the Friend. Code of the Friend, if people aren't familiar with him, check him out. It's pretty dope artist, rapper. We've had his manager on the MEC before, and it's just a certain aesthetic to what he does, a certain style. He used to be and still is a director, videographer, so you can see that in the story that he's telling. And I think even in his name is Code of the Friend, like he raps to you like he's your friend. Like that's his thing. And obviously that's the brand and story that he tells through his name and through his music.
And that's different from what a lot of artists convey and what they're trying to convey nowadays. I just want to add that.
Yeah, so it's not he's a great example of because if you're thinking about flying out the window and like doing some crazy shit, going to the store and start knocking things off the shelves and renaming yourself Tasmanian Devil or something crazy like that, like that's not what we mean. Sometimes it's just a certain angle to things. Sometimes it's a certain aesthetic. He's very consistent in his videos. I want people to go watch his videos. He's very consistent. When you see a video, you know that he shot it. And it's so simple. It probably doesn't take much to shoot his videos either. He probably doing it himself. Probably don't cost him anything. If
Hobson did that. You saw Hobson doing that.
Do what?
Shoot his own videos and do all that and direct them and everything. And he had his own aesthetic and that worked for him.
Yeah. I mean, Hop learned to shoot his own videos as well. His are typically a little bit more complicated and involved than Coda's, because Coda's is typically a single shot, but it's worked and it's resonated and it's fit the story that he's trying to tell. So I just don't want people thinking that we're suggesting doing something wild. I think it needs to be a compelling story. It needs to be on brand, and it needs to be different. Have a different take on things. So yeah, that's all.
Well, I'm sure someone will tell me that my metaphor is not a good one, as I always hear. My analogies tend to be less popular, so I'm trying to avoid those. I think this metaphor works, though. Just please don't take it literally. I don't need people getting arrested for public indecency, and it's my fault. It's a freaking metaphor, guys. All right, I want to talk about beat tags next episode because we're running out of time. So that's something to look forward to. There's a lot of interesting dialogue happening right now, especially shout out to Producer Grind. I don't know why this is a topic that's suddenly in the spotlight, but I'm glad it is because it brings up a lot of side conversations that are cool. So one last time, appreciate you for tuning in. This is the Music Entrepreneur Club podcast, and our actual music business mentorship program happens twice a week, Mondays and Thursdays at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on beatstars.live. And if you want to get alerted every time we go live, Dame, what do they have to do?
All you have to do is text MEC to 844-206-7800, and we'll shoot you a text right before we go live to remind you.
Dope. Once again, appreciate you tuning in. Peace.
Peace.